Hello and welcome to our online class of social science. Today I am going to explain chapter 2 of class 6th in geography book of social science. Chapter's name is Globe, Latitudes and Longitudes. So here we have content of this chapter. First we will discuss introduction of this chapter, then important parallels of latitudes, heat zones of the earth, what are longitudes, longitude and time, why do we have standard time. All these points we will discuss in our class step by step. So first of all, as we all know that chapter's name is globe, longitudes and latitudes. So here we have one picture of globe. Now you can understand that this globe is looking like the true model of our earth. In simple ways, we define that globe is a true model or a miniature form of the earth. You can understand in simple way about the globe that it is a true model or a miniature form of the earth, because we can't show entire earth on a paper in a simple way. Hence we have made a model of the earth which you can see in the form of globe. Here we can see that by this model we can rotate the shape of the earth and we can see that where is the exact location of any place. In this globe you can see that our earth is having 71% water, that is called hydrosphere zone, and remaining part is shown in this gray shade, that is land. So here the size of the globe, it varies. It may be of big size, as you might have seen in some of the national museums or in special galleries of globe, and it may be a very small size globe which is generally available in gift stores, gift palaces. Sometimes we can keep this globe in our pocket also. This globe is not fixed at one place. It can be rotated, as we can see that axis of this globe is shown in the center of the earth from top to bottom. On the globe, countries, continents and oceans are shown in their correct size and location. Here you can see the definition of the globe. You can note down in your notebook. Although we have discussed about the globe that it may be varying size and type. Some globes are easy to carry in pockets too. Generally, in science labs, globes are easily available. Coming to our next slide, when you see our Earth, you see one imaginary line in the center of the Earth. That line is called equator. On this picture also you can see that this center line, which is shown here parallel to other lines, which divides our Earth into two parts, generally in two hemispheres, is called equator. This line is not real on the Earth's surface. This is an imaginary line. Mean, to get the exact location, we have imagined this line. We divided our Earth into some imaginary lines. As you can see, some lines are parallel to each other. These lines which are parallel to each other, for example this second line, here this third line, this line and this line, these are not connecting each other. That's why these are called parallels of latitudes. Here you have to understand that imaginary lines on the Earth's surface which are parallel or parallel circles from the equator up to the poles in the northern hemisphere and equator to pole in the southern hemisphere. These lines are parallels of latitude. Here you can see that these parallels of latitudes are shown. Coming to our next, here you can note down about equator. That imaginary line running on the globe divides it into two equal parts. Here in the previous slide, here in this slide you can see that this Earth, which is in the geode shape, the shape of the Earth is geode shape. It is not completely round like a ball. The shape of the Earth is geode. Here the top point which you can see is the North Pole and the bottom point is the South Pole. So in this line you can see that the center line which is dividing the earth into two parts is equator. Here you can see, I'm showing again. This dot line is called equator. This one, I think you will easily identify this line on the earth. Then on the northern hemisphere, 20° north, 40° north, 60° north, 80° north, and then North Pole. In the same way, when we go in the southern hemisphere, 20° south, 40° south, 60° south, 80° south. So you have to understand these points clearly. Coming to our next slide, here are some facts about the latitudes, that all parallels north to the equator are called north latitudes. Here I am showing you once again in the previous slide. Here you can see that these slides which are in the northern hemisphere, equator to this North Pole, these are called north latitudes. These are not joining with each other, and lines which are in the southern hemisphere from equator to South Pole are called south latitudes. So generally these are indicated by two alphabets, N and S. Here I am showing you picture once again. When you will see, you can see here that here along with this 20, N, 20° north, this N is indicating north, whereas this line, dot line, it is 0°. There is no north, no south, because it is in the center of the earth. Same southern hemisphere lines are indicated with S, and northern hemisphere lines are indicated with N. From equator to North Pole there are 90 lines, and in the southern hemisphere from equator to South Pole there are 90 lines which are parallel to each other, not joining each other. Here we can say in simple words that latitudes run parallel to each other. These you can see, these are parallel, these are not joining any other line. In the same way, there are other lines which are not joining. They are of different length. This is the second fact about these lines, that this line is lengthy. This line is lengthy, 1°, 2° north, 3° north, whereas this 88, 89°, these are small. These lines run in the east-west direction, from east to west direction. Here we have eastern side and here we have western side. So these are running from east to west direction. I hope about latitudes your most of the concepts are clear. Here I am explaining again that 0° latitude that divides the earth into two equal halves two equal halves. Here you can see this line. This is called equator. This is 0 degree, 0 degree. And the other upper lines means these are indicated by north N, and southern lines are indicated by south. Coming to our next slide, after these facts, here in this picture you can see major latitudinal lines, all the important latitudinal lines. Here step by step I will tell you. Just pay attention that this center line which divides our earth into two equal halves is known as equator. This is 0 degree. We write 0 degree in this way. Then in the northern hemisphere, one important line which is passing through our country near Ahmedabad region, that is Tropic of Cancer. This line you can see here, it is called Tropic of Cancer, this one. Okay, on 21st June, which is called the longest day in the northern hemisphere, sun rays fall directly on this Tropic of Cancer. Now coming to, this is indicated as 23 degree and half. Here you can see 23 degree and half minute. Okay, north. Here north we will write N with all these lines. Next one is Arctic Circle. This is called Arctic Circle, 66 degree half minute. Here you can write 66 degree and half minute. Half minute. Here minute sign we put like this. So this is Arctic Circle. In the southern hemisphere we can see the Tropic of Capricorn. This Capricorn is in Tropic of southern hemisphere. You can see that this line is having 23 degree and half degree extent in the south. And Antarctic Circle, this one is shown. Antarctic Circle is 66 degree half minute in the south. So these are some of the important lines of our earth. Although one thing you have to understand, that these are not real. These are only imaginary lines. Now about these important parallels, here it is written. Although you must have understood by that graph, by that picture, here Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere 23 degree half minute north, Tropic of Capricorn 23 degree half minute south in the southern hemisphere, Arctic Circle 66 degree half minute north to the equator, north to the equator, and Antarctic Circle 66 degree half minute south to the equator. So these are some of the important latitudes. Coming to our next slide, here we have heat zones. So I will show you these heat zones one by one. When we see our slides. So in the last slide we had seen heat zones also. In this slide, when you see very carefully this picture of the earth, it is divided into different zones. So on the top, when we see that from North Pole to Arctic Circle, North Pole to Arctic Circle, this zone is called Frigid zone. Same is in the South Pole, in the southern hemisphere. From Antarctic Circle means 66 degree half minute south to South Pole, it is Frigid zone. Meanwhile, the area near the poles is called Frigid zone. It is a cold zone. Okay, generally this area is covered with snow cap. Sorry. Second, this dark phase which you can see between Arctic Circle to Tropic of Cancer, this one, and Antarctic Circle to Tropic of Capricorn, this one. This zone is called temperate zone. Temperate zone. You have to understand that the part which is in the northern hemisphere is called north temperate zone, and the part which is in the southern hemisphere is called south temperate zone. Generally, this zone is not receiving maximum heat because only torrid zone is receiving direct sun rays. Here if you see this zone, you will find that direct rays of the sun are not coming in this zone. The angle of the sun rays goes on decreasing towards the pole. When you see that if we believe that sun is here, so the direct rays of the sun come in this zone only, whereas the rays goes in the tilted position, less amount of rays are going in this zone. So this zone is divided into two parts, north temperate zone and south temperate zone. Now I am coming to third important zone, that is called torrid zone. Here you can see that this part from equator to Tropic of Cancer and equator to Tropic of Capricorn, this zone in the center of the earth is called torrid zone. This is called torrid zone. Here you can see that this zone is called torrid zone in the center. Why it is called torrid zone? Because midday sun is exactly overhead at least once in a year on all latitudes in between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. If we see that here sun rays fall on this zone once in a year. So here this is called torrid zone. Okay, just a minute, let me show you this zone back. here. When we see that if sun is here, this zone is receiving direct heat of the sun. Okay, it is receiving direct heat of the sun. That's why it experiences maximum heat. Maximum amount of heat is received by this zone only. Whereas these two zones, especially if we see this frigid zone, these zones remains very cold or in the ice cap form, because sun rays are not coming in these rays in these areas, or coming very less. The reason is the earth is tilted on its axis. On its axis, earth is tilted. Okay, coming to next slide. Here we have discussed about the zones. So about temperate zone it is written, you can see the explanation, that the midday sun never shines overhead on any of the latitude beyond the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Reason is that the angle of the sun rays goes on decreasing towards the pole. Okay, as such areas bounded by Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle in the northern hemisphere, and Tropic of Capricorn and Antarctic Circle in the southern hemisphere, they have moderate temperature. These are called temperate zones. Coming to frigid zone, that the areas between Arctic Circle and the North Pole, as we had seen in the slide, in the northern hemisphere, Antarctic Circle and the South Pole in the southern hemisphere are very cold. The reason is that sun rays, means because sun rays are not reaching in these areas, as these are, you can say, slanting and providing very less heat due to the tilted position of the earth. Now coming to another lines on the earth, which are the imaginary lines. These are not parallels like the latitudes. These are not horizontal like the latitudes. These are, as you can understand in this picture, that these lines are joining poles from North Pole to South Pole, and the fact is that these all lines are joining the poles from all sides. These are not, you can say that these are not parallel. These lines are joining our earth. Okay, you can understand. Okay, now I'm showing you here in the slide. You can see previous slide, that meridians of longitude, the imaginary lines which run vertically joining North Pole to South Pole, as we had seen in the next picture. This is the North Pole region and this is the South Pole region. Okay, so from North Pole to South Pole, these are joining, means vertically. These are not the real lines on the earth, these are imaginary lines, you have to understand. And when we see this picture of the earth, we find that it is flat on the tops whereas bulky on the sides. We have 180 lines in the eastern hemisphere and 180 lines in the northern hemisphere. All these lines are joining here on the poles. So these are called longitudes, right? I hope that you will understand this longitude easily. Here I am explaining that imaginary lines which run vertically joining North Pole to South Pole are called meridians of longitude. These are called meridians of longitude. Okay, here you have to understand that 0-degree longitude. Okay, I am showing you in the previous slide. In the next slide you can see here that this 0-degree, meanwhile, which is in the center, this one, this central line joining the North Pole to South Pole, that divides the earth into the eastern and the western hemispheres. So let me tell you that this part is the eastern, indicated by E, and this part is western, indicated by W. You will find that along with these lines, here 30-degree east, E is written. This side 120-degree west, W is written. So western hemisphere, meanwhile, the half of the earth to the west of the prime meridian. This 0-degree is a prime meridian line. So half of the earth to the west of our prime meridian is called western hemisphere, whereas the half of the earth to the east of prime meridian is called eastern hemisphere. Second thing which you have to understand, that longitudes are vertical lines. You can see here all are verticals coming from top to bottom. Okay, and the fact is they are joining the poles, both the poles. They are not parallel, they are joining each other. These lines are running in the north to south directions, and there are 360 longitudes. The total number of longitudes are 360. Okay, the 0-degree longitude is the prime meridian. You have to understand that this 0-degree, which is in the center of the earth joining North Pole to South Pole, this is called prime meridian. It divides the earth into two hemispheres. It divides the earth into two hemispheres. Okay, these are imaginary lines, these are not real. This you have to understand. Coming to the next slide, here you have seen a definition of these longitudes. Coming to the next line, that is grid. The imaginary lines which are crisscrossing the entire earth. Here you can see that these are the imaginary lines which are crisscrossing the earth. In this picture you can see very clearly that these are crisscrossing. Some are, you can say, in the horizontal manner as a latitude. Here these are latitudes which are parallel, not joining, whereas the others are longitude. These longitudinal lines are joining on the poles. This you have to understand. So this is making a crisscrossing each other. So this net, it is called a grid. I hope that this grid point is clear to everybody, that lines which are crisscrossing the entire earth are called grid. Okay, now we have one important part in this chapter about Indian Standard Meridian line. Here you can see on the map one line is passing through the center of the earth from north to south. This is longitudinal line. Okay, so from this Gujarat coastal area till Arunachal Pradesh region we have around 30 meridians of longitude. Here you can see these lines, that this is 68 degree east. Here this east is written, these are in eastern direction, and in the Arunachal Pradesh region it is 97 degree east. So between this area in India we have around 30 longitudes. So each longitude is having different timing. Okay, so we have, as per you can say the international standards, 4 minutes is given for each line. So if we see that from Gujarat to Arunachal Pradesh there is a difference of 2 hours timing as per the longitudinal lines. Meanwhile, if it is 10 o'clock in Gujarat, then in Arunachal Pradesh it would be 12 o'clock. So to resolve this problem and make a standard time for the country, standard time for the nation, we decided to have one central line which would be considered as a standard meridian line of the country or Indian Standard Time line. So that line we have taken in the center. Okay, here you can see that this is the center of these two lines. From 68 degree to 97 we have taken center after 15 lines approximately. This is 82 degree half minute east. So this line has been chosen as a standard meridian line of India. Here you can see that in India the longitude of 82 degree half minute in east, because it is in the eastern hemisphere, is considered as the standard meridian. The local time at this meridian is taken as standard time for the whole nation. It is also called IST, Indian Standard Time. I hope that you understood this chapter. Here let me recapitulate the major difference between these two points, latitudes and longitudes. That latitudes are the parallel lines to each other, they run horizontally. Here you can see these are the latitudes which are going horizontally. I am just recapitulating for your better understanding. These lines which are horizontal and parallel in nature, they are of different length. Near the equator these are lengthy, and near the poles these are short. They run in east to west direction, from east to west, whereas longitudes meet at the poles. This you have to understand, that these longitudes meet at the pole. There are 360 60 longitudes. These are 360. These longitudes are of same length. There is no difference in the length of these longitudes. All longitudes are of same length. Means whether it is 1 degree or 180 degree. They run in the north to south direction. So I hope that you understood globe, longitudes and latitudes. Note down your important points in notebook. Thank you very much.